Hi, Red Like Rocket. You bring up an interesting question. I mean, first of all, I think it is true that people that are like abstractions and abstract thoughts do have the danger of using that abstraction as an escape. And also, people in the mind frame like that um, expand their abilities of intellectual power by trying to use them to escape. So that is a big problem. On the other hand, what really I wonder about what you said in this video is more along the lines, really, first of, well, what do you mean by ego? Do you mean the part of us that is this self-esteem related machine that needs this ego in order to feel good? You know, you need to have an ego. Or do you just mean like the mental construct, which is this sense of self and selfness? Now, I do believe that the ego is an illusion, but it's not that it doesn't exist. It's not a total illusion in the sense that it's a useful illusion. I believe that there's a part of our mind, this conscious part, and it's basically, its job is to pretend it is the whole thing. It wants to take responsibility for the whole body. Now, in an unrelated video, I have mentioned that sometimes people talking about free will do focus on this consciousness. So, for example, somebody told me recently, they didn't believe in free will, that the conscious mind is just justifying actions. And there's been some psychological research to demonstrate that the brain, the consciousness, is reacting after the action. But would that mean that we didn't have free will? Because if our actions were coming and willed from the unconscious, just because we're not conscious of them wouldn't mean that it wasn't us. I mean, the blood vessels in my little toe, I'm not familiar with them or in touch with what they're doing very much at all. I mean, if my toe got smashed, I'd feel pain. But right now, it's just blood pumping down there and all kinds of things going on in that part of my body. It's still me whether I feel a connection or knowledge about it. So ego is an illusion, and yet there is a body, there is something that is myself, and it is this whole package. Now, I entertain some metaphysical ideas because I find them interesting, but basically I am a materialist. I believe that all we have is the mind inside of a brain, which is its embodiment, and we can experience the illusions and ideas that this mind gives us, and still analytically look at ourselves as an object and say, well, what are we really in total? And that becomes two different questions. There's what are we in total as ourself, and then there is this feeling of self-esteem. I'm a little biased on it because I'm so sick of people talking about their self-esteem and how they feel about themselves, and of course that is going to affect every action, and of course it's important, but we just have this culture of babying our egos and thinking that it's so important that everything we do serve our self-esteem, when we obviously have the power to look at the world and come up with ideas independent of just the self-serving idea of making sure that our ego feels a particular way. So I don't know if this is going to go anywhere. If it did, I mean, I would eventually, there's a balance there. Of course, we do have to feel good about ourselves. And, I would argue for the value of making sure your self-esteem is healthy, if we get into the details. But as the first part of a discussion of ego, I mean, my inclination is to think that it's just not as important as everybody says. So what do you mean by ego? Why do you want to transcend it? And what if the term ego is just a fiction and a placeholder for an idea that's important to us, but really it's not something we can transcend because it's a description of us, not a fundamental characteristic?